Exposed. 6 spine-chilling true trucker tales haunting Brazil. Discover the sinister secrets. The stories whispered among truckers late at night sent chills down Sarah's spine. They say there's a highway demon prowls Route 66 after dark. The grizzled old driver had said, his eyes wide with fear. Each tale more desperate than the last, weaving nightmares into the fabric of the long, lonely highways. Sarah shivered, unable to shake off the dread wrapping around her like a thick fog. Sarah sat at the kitchen table, coffee steaming in front of her, trying not to let the chaos of fear take over her orderly life. Her heart raced as she scrolled through her phone, anticipation pulsing through her veins. She leaned forward, biting her lip, hoping for a message from Jack, her husband. Nothing, just silence. The hands on the clock seemed to mock her, each tick echoing the growing dread deep inside as the evening descended and the autumn breeze rustled the leaves outside. It felt as if the whole world was holding its breath. Jack never went silent on his hauls. Hours passed like molasses. The next day, panic surged, and Sarah drove to the sheriff's office. "He's just delayed," a deputy said with a careless grin, his eyes wandering inappropriately. "They always get caught up. Probably in a motel." Frustration bubbled in Sarah. No, this was different. She stormed out, her heart pounding, every instinct screaming that something was wrong. Days blurred together in a haze of anxiety. She couldn't just wait. Sarah started asking Jack's trucking friends, their faces nervous as they recounted the horror stories about Route 66, stories filled with flickering lights that disappeared, truckers vanishing without a trace, darkness swallowing them whole. One by one, the tales twisted tighter around her. Sleepless nights spent combing through online forums brought her bizarre updates. Beware the highway demon, there it was again. The whispered name that sent had chills racing down her spine. Jack was out there somewhere, alone on that road. The neighbor, Mr. Coates, appeared so willing to help. "Let me assist you, Sarah." His voice comforted her, but his eyes held too many secrets. She felt an unease prickle at the back of her neck. Every encounter with him, every story of vanished drivers, led back to him. It felt like landing in a web spun with dark intentions. And yet, he seemed so kind. He brought over pies, shared stories about truckers' routes. She couldn't shake the feeling he knew more than he let on. That night, the wind howled, shadows moved outside her window. Sarah felt paranoia clawing at her. The neighborhood she'd always loved felt like a maze of secrets. Her heartbeat quickened. She knew she had to drive that same route Jack had taken. Maybe she could find him or at least uncover the truth. With trepidation filling her veins, she turned on her car's headlights, illuminating the dark road ahead. The deeper she went, the more the weight of fear gripped her. Shadows danced in her rearview mirror, chilling and dark. Just then, a figure stepped into the light, a silhouette eerily familiar. Heart racing, she pulled closer, hoping. But as the shape neared, doubt consumed her. Something about its presence felt wrong. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. She squinted through the darkness, breath catching in her throat. Couldn't he be Jack? Could it? As she approached, a shiver of unease rippled through her. The figure was just a few feet away now, and the closer she got, the more her gut twisted. A broken promise in the air. The haunting legend of the highway demon felt real now, breathless and terrifying. Would she uncover the truth? Or had she driven into a remembrance of nightmares? A sick fear danced in her chest, the shadows swirling, and she braced herself for the unimaginable truth lurking just ahead. The silhouette stepped into the light, and Sarah's heart plummeted. It wasn't Jack. Long hair flowed around a gaunt face, twisted in a grotesque smile that sent a jolt of fear straight to her core. It was a woman, hollow cheeks and dark, Sunken eyes bore into Sarah, as if she could seize her very soul. "Are you looking for someone?" the stranger whispered, her voice a raspy echo of despair. Sarah's breath turned shallow, dread pooling in her stomach. This wasn't just any stranger. The stories buzzed in her mind like a hornet's nest, merging with the images of disappeared drivers. "I am looking for my husband," Sarah stammered, instinctively gripping the steering wheel as if it could somehow keep her safe. "He was on Route 66. Hasn't he come home?" The woman took a wobbly step closer, and shadows clung to her like a shroud. "They all vanish. The road takes them just like it took him." Her eyes darted into the darkness behind Sarah. "The demon feeds on the lost, chasing the light. Your husband, the way he looked, so hopeful. It drew him in." Panic surged through Sarah. "What do you know about him? Did you see him?" She leaned forward, desperate for anything that could guide her back to Jack. "Hope is a dangerous thing on this highway." The woman's voice wavered, as if she were wrestling with memories of her own. "One flicker and you're snatched into the night." Her gaze drifted to the road, and for a split second, a shudder ran through the air. There was a stillness, like the space just before a storm. Sarah's impulse to flee surged. "What do you mean? How does the demon come?" Without answering, the woman jerked, her expression contorting. "Run. He'll come for you next." The instinct to obey made Sarah's foot press the accelerator hard. The tires screeched in protest as she turned the car away from the unsettling figure. Leaving her trembling heart behind, she raced down the highway, fueled by adrenaline. But the darkness felt cold around her. She could almost hear the whispers mocking, luring. She glanced back. The woman stood still, a haunting silhouette against the highway's desolation, her smile broadening with a sinister joy. Sarah felt a chill wrap around her. Suddenly, the headlights caught a pair of eyes glinting in the distance, a flash of something unnatural. As she sped past, the outline of an enormous truck emerged from the darkness, its engine growling like a feral beast. It seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, following her every turn. Her heart raced as she dared to look in the rearview mirror. The truck loomed closer, its headlights brightening as it pursued her. Panic clawed at her throat. Was this the highway demon? Sarah squeezed the wheel tighter, weaving between the lines. The road twisted and turned, and fear mounted as the truck edged closer, a dark menace behind her. Her mind raced. Was it possible it was another trucker lost like Jack? Or something far worse? Without warning, the truck surged forward like a predator, swerving sharply as if it were alive, hungry. Every ounce of courage drained from Sarah as it roared to overtake her, sending her into a desperate swerve. But in her blind panic, she lost control, the world spinning in a haze of light and dark as her car careened off the road. Slamming into a ditch, her last thought was of Jack, the darkness closing in around her. Had she been too late? Then, stillness enveloped her, followed by a haunting whisper that echoed through the void. "You should have never come here." Perhaps the highway demon was waiting in the shadows to claim her soul next. But the truth was obscured now, lost in the wreckage of terror. Would Sarah ever escape this twisted fate? Or would she join the countless vanished drivers swallowed by the night? In the suffocating darkness of the car, the echo of haunting laughter filled the air, promising a revelation that would send her racing heart tumbling into deeper horror. What would she uncover at the edge of despair? The world around Sarah was silent, the only sound the soft hum of her own breathing catching in her throat. Instinctively, she reached for her phone, fingers trembling as she fumbled to dial 911. But the screen flickered and died, leaving her in eerie darkness. Panic surged anew. As she blinked into the void, shadows seemed to dance in the corners of her vision. "Jack," she whispered, a breathy prayer that barely escaped her lips. The memory of his laugh played in her mind, a desperate melody that clawed at her heart. Suddenly, the car jolted, as if something had bumped it from behind. The tires sunk deeper into the mud. Her breath hitched as she leaned forward, her heart pounding like a war drum. "Is anyone there?" she called, her voice slicing through the stillness like a knife. The silence that followed felt heavy, oppressive. Then she heard it. A slow, deliberate sound, dragging footsteps crunching on gravel, inching closer. Every instinct screamed at her to hide. She didn't dare move, frozen in her seat, the shadows around clinging tighter. The footsteps stopped. The air grew thick with dread as she strained to see through the cracked window. A shape loomed outside, a figure obscured by darkness. It shifted as if caught between this world and another, its outline distorted and grotesque. "Help!" Sarah rasped, her voice trembling with fear. She hoped against hope that whoever or whatever it was might offer salvation. "Help!" The figure's voice was low and gravelly, like the grinding of stone. "You're beyond help now, aren't you?" Chills prickled her skin. Then the figure stepped into a shaft of dim light, illuminating an edge of a face that had been hidden in shadows. A grin stretched wide across a bony visage, eyes glimmering with a malevolent glow. It wasn't the woman from before, but something equally wrong. No, it was worse, deformed and twisted, something that should not exist. "Where's the light?" it hissed, fangs glistening in the darkness. "You're one of them. You're drawn to it." "No, please, let me go," Sarah shouted, thrashing against her seatbelt as terror surged. The creature loomed closer, peering in through the window. The smell was foul, like rot, an unsettling mix of decay and night. The madness glinted in its eyes as it reveled in her fear, leaning closer till its face nearly touched the glass, mouth twisted in a cruel smile. "You think you can leave?" it rasped. "The road is hungry tonight. It has a special appetite for lost souls, for a heartbeat." Sarah was paralyzed, sheer horror gripping her. The weight of its words sank in, drowning her in despair. Jack's fate twisted in her gut. Was he lost to this darkness as well? Then her desperation ignited. She slammed the car into reverse, suddenly wrenching the wheel, tearing away from the creature's gaze. With adrenaline pushing her forward, the car jolted and sputtered, regaining life. As she peered through her rearview mirror, she saw the figure growling in rage, shadows curling where it stood. Dread gnawed at her as she skidded back onto the road. How would she escape? The highway stretched endlessly before her, suffocating and dark, and the dark truck still rattled behind her, its engine growling like a beast starved for prey. And then, off in the distance, a lone flicker of light appeared, a beacon or a trap. The hope sparked but was quickly overshadowed by fear of what lay ahead. What would she find if she followed that beckoning glow? Just as she made the decision to steer toward it, a voice reverberated through the darkness of her mind, a warning mixed with a promise. "Leave now, or face the weight of desperate choices." The words lingered in the cold air, begging her to question what was worse, chasing after the light or surrendering to the darkness that hungered for her soul. Would she dare venture into the unknown? Or was there still time to escape the grasp of the highway demon? The headlights flickered in the distance, growing larger as Sarah pushed the accelerator to the floor. Hope mixed with dread as shadows loomed behind her, dark and menacing. The creature's voice haunted her thoughts, a relentless echo. "The road is hungry tonight." She gripped the steering wheel tighter, knuckles white with fear. What if it's a mistake? She whispered to herself, an internal battle raging. The flickering light ahead could be salvation or a trap laid by the darkness. What if Jack had followed the light and never returned? A shiver ran down her spine. She slammed her foot harder on the gas, feeling the engine strain against the weight of fear trailing her. The world outside was a blur, a mix of jagged trees and swirling darkness. The car rumbled on, a defiant beast battling against the night. With every passing second, she could sense the presence behind her, just out of sight, lurking like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. That sinister hum of the truck's south engine echoed close, a reminder that she wasn't truly alone. As she neared the glowing beacon, panic surged anew. She desperately searched for an escape route, a way to elude the nightmare that shadowed her. But the light was mesmerizing, pulsating with a warmth that drew her closer. What if it's a safe haven? Hope clashed with reason, each possibility tearing at her mind. The glow finally resolved into a structure at the roadside, a small gas station, its neon sign flickering like a heartbeat. Relief flooded her senses. She could stop, find help. She gripped the wheel, her decision made. With a sudden jerk, she turned into the gas station lot, tires screeching against gravel. The building loomed ahead, greasy and worn, but it was light, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, she felt a flicker of safety. But as she parked, a chilling realization washed over her. The truck had stopped too. Its ominous shape loomed in the shadows, like a hound waiting for its master. The engine roared to silence, and for a moment, everything was still. Get inside, she urged herself, shaking with panic. As she exited the car, the door creaked like an eerie warning. Her breathing quickened, anxiety wrapping around her throat like a vice. Inside, the gas station was dimly lit, the faint buzz of fluorescent lights flooding the space with an unwelcoming hue. The smell of stale coffee and oil hung in the air, a palpable reminder of the place's neglect. A single clerk stood behind the counter, eyes wide with disbelief. A little girl sat on a stool nearby, drawing, oblivious to the chaos outside. Call the police, Sarah begged, her voice trembling. There's something out there. Before she could say more, the door creaked open behind her. The girl looked up, momentarily intrigued. The clerk seemed stunned, his face clouding with confusion as shadows filled the entryway. What did you bring here? The clerk finally whispered, eyes darting toward the door. The little girl tilted her head, sensing something inside her, but unable to know. Fear washed over her as she felt that unmistakable dread creep into the room, a cold wave freezing the air. Get behind the counter, she shouted as she backed away from the door. But before she could react, the creature lunged past the threshold. Where's the light? It rasped, mouth stretched wide. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest as she turned to the clerk and the girl, desperation growing. Run, she screamed. The flickering gas station light hummed, and the shadows seemed to swirl, coiling around them. Would they find refuge here, or were they merely feeding the insatiable darkness? As they scrambled, she couldn't shake the feeling that the true horror was just beginning. What if it follows us? The thought rang in her mind as chaos erupted. Behind her, the creature sneered. You've brought this upon yourselves. A scream broke through the air, and panic erupted as they faced their worst fears. Would they escape the claws of the highway? As Sarah reached for the child to run, she heard a familiar voice slip through the silence. They're not lost, they're never lost. The creature's ghastly form filled the doorway, its elongated limbs bending unnaturally. The glowing eyes were pools of darkness, drawing Sarah's gaze against her will. Run. The urgency in her voice shattered whatever moment of clarity existed in the gas station. She lunged toward the girl, grabbing her hand, but the child seemed anchored by curiosity. Please, Sarah screamed, pulling the girl from her stool. The clerk stood frozen at the counter, mouth agape. Get behind the counter. Now. The girl finally moved, but not before glancing back at the creature, an air of innocence untouched by the terror that engulfed them. The only sound was the creature's rasping breath and the electric hum of the lights above, vibrating eerily. Out of the corner of her eye, Sarah saw the clerk jump into action. But not toward safety. He lurched forward, as if entranced by the presence that prowled at the edge of the light. Stay back, he hollered, brandishing a half-empty bottle of lighter fluid like a weapon. The creature's grin widened, revealing rows of jagged teeth. The light, it will not save you, it hissed, and Sarah felt the world tilt beneath her feet. What do you want? Sarah demanded, her voice tinged with defiance. As if mocking her question, the creature took a step into the gas station, the buzzing lights flickering more violently, casting frantic shadows on the wall. Where's the light? It repeated, echoing in the cramped space. The clerk had his back to them, still fixated on the creature. It's the light we can show you, he murmured, eyes glistening with an unsettling mix of fear and devotion. Stop him, Sarah yelled. She thrust her hand through the air, reaching for the girl. We need to get out. But the child, wide-eyed, wouldn't he move. He's not scary. He wants to help. Sarah's heart sank. No, You don't understand. With an uncanny swiftness, the creature lunged forward, stretching out a long finger toward the girl. Come to me, I will show you the way. Run. Please, run. Sarah cried out, racing toward the counter. The strong scent of gasoline filling her lungs. In that split second, the clerk turned, the lighter fluid now a prop against the growing dread. He hurled it at the creature just as it lunged for the girl. The flame ignited fiercely, illuminating the grotesque features of their tormentor. The next moment was chaos. The creature reeled back, its roar reverberating through the gas station. A sound that clawed at Sarah's sanity. The lights flickered wildly, plunging them into an eerie twilight as flames flickered and danced. Get her! Sarah shouted. Finally, the girl broke from her daze. She bolted behind the counter, her small form disappearing amidst the chaos. The clerk's moment of bravery evaporated, terror overtaking his resolve. Help me! He screamed as he staggered back, fumbling against the shelves. Oil cans rattled. The structure seemed to quake under the weight of fear. Get to the back. Sarah spat through gritted teeth, shoving the clerk aside. They couldn't fight this thing. It was strong, twisted, and anchored in the shadows that crept eagerly around. As they edged toward the service door, Sarah glanced back. The creature's eyes glimmered with hate, inching forward, defiant against the flames that now encroached on its domain. Whereas the light, it howled again, this time more frantic. Shut up, Sarah shouted in desperation. But deep down, she knew the truth. It thrived on their fear, feeding on the hopelessness that spread like wildfire. With one last surge of adrenaline, Sarah yanked the service door open, the cool night air washing over her like a desperate embrace. She pushed the girl through, glancing back just in time to see the creature lunge, teeth bared in a last, terrifying arc of pursuit. They stumbled into the darkness, hearts racing, but the road ahead loomed, a yawning abyss. There was no certainty, no safety waiting. They were still hunted. Where do we go now? The girl whispered as a shiver of dread coursed through them. Sarah hesitated, feeling the ground tremble beneath her with every pulse of darkness. The creature's growl echoed from behind. The road is never finished. Come back, it called, distorting the air with a sense of inevitable return. Anywhere but here, Sarah replied, dread pooling in her stomach. Yet a question lingered, as chilling as the night itself. What if the darkness wasn't just the creature, but something deeper within the road they traveled? As they ventured further, shadows stretched ahead. What else would they uncover on this twisted path? The darkness wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. Each breath Sarah took felt heavier, burdened by the weight of the nightmare they had just escaped. The girl's tiny hand trembled in hers, her fingers cold and slick with sweat. The winding road ahead twisted like a serpent, a beckoning pathway to whatever lurked just out of sight. What was that thing? The girl asked, her voice a barely audible whisper. Sarah wanted to protect her from the truth, to shield her from the fear that washed over her like cold rain. I don't know, sweetie, but we need to keep moving. They stumbled forward, the sound of gravel crunching underfoot echoing their heartbeats. The gas station was a distant memory, but the creature's presence clung to them, thick and suffocating. Just behind them, the growl morphed into a sinister laugh, a sound that twisted Sarah's stomach into knots. Do you hear that? The girl exclaimed, stopping short. The laughter twisted with the wind, shifting tones in a way that felt almost familiar, teasing at the edges of their minds. It's just the wind, Sarah lied, pushing the child onward as the road stretched endlessly. Shadows danced at the periphery of their vision. Hours felt like days, and every rustle in the underbrush made them jump. What if it finds us? The girl asked, eyes wide and searching. Sarah shook her head, trying to hold on to any flicker of hope. It won't. We're faster. We just have to stay quiet and not let it see us. Yet, with every step, the road felt more alive. The whispers of the trees, the crackling of the leaves beneath unseen feet, it was as if something were tracking them. A flicker of motion caught her eye. She turned sharply, heart racing, but saw nothing but darkness. Just shadows playing tricks, she told herself. But in the silence that followed, a rhythmic sound began to reach them, a deep thudding that felt more like a heartbeat than a footstep. Sarah's heart raced, echoing the thud, a drum roll to their doom. Panic squeezed her chest. "Quick! Over here!" She tugged the girl toward a cluster of trees, hoping to break the line of sight. But as they hurried off the path, the laughter returned, taunting and mocking, wrapping around them like a noose. "We see you!" The creature's voice slithered from the night, chilling Sarah to her core. "Cover your ears," she instructed. But there was no remaining confidence in her tone. The woods enveloped them in darkness. The weight of the creature's gaze still felt, heavy and oppressive. Then came a rumble beneath the earth, a tremor that shook the ground. The girl whimpered, sensing the creature's approach even before the oppressive chill washed over them. "Sarah, it's coming. I can shoo. Just listen." Sarah snapped, her fingers clenched tight around the girl's wrist. Every shallow breath felt like a countdown. The laughter faded for a moment, replaced by that dreadful silence, thick and suffocating. Before the sound of tearing flesh and cracking bone echoed from the surrounding woods, they huddled close, hearts racing in unison, the night's air so cold and thick it felt wrong. Then the ground beneath them heaved once more, and Sarah realized a figure loomed in the treeline, a dark shadow against the deeper darkness. With narrowed breath, Sarah leaned in close, whispering, "We have to move. Now." They darted deeper into the unforgiving woods, branches clawing at their skin, frantically weaving through the maze of trees. But when they emerged, the sight before them was more terrifying than they could have imagined. A dilapidated shack stood there, its door hanging crookedly, as if inviting them inside. "Is it safe?" the girl asked, fear etched in her young brow. Sarah's gut twisted. "I don't know." As the creature's laughter erupted once more, now echoing with rage and desperation, Sarah felt the icy grip of dread settle deeper into her bones. They had run and hidden, but they would soon have to confront the darkness that sought them. There was no fleeing this time. "What if we find something worse inside?" the girl whispered anxiously, peering into the shadows that brimmed beneath the sagging porch. "Only one way to find out," Sarah said quietly, every heartbeat pounding in her ears. What awaited them within the walls of that shack? The creature's voice howled from the darkness, growing ever closer. The dread of the unknown consumed them, yet one unbearable truth lingered: they still might not escape. They stood frozen at the threshold of the shack, shadows enveloping them like a shroud. The door creaked ominously as the wind pushed against it, urging them to enter. A part of Sarah screamed to run, to flee, but the creature's laughter echoed like a death knell, forcing her to take a step forward, a reluctant invitation into the unknown. The hinges groaned, protesting her touch, and then the door swung inwards, revealing a dim interior. A pungent, musty smell engulfed them, thick and cloying, as if the walls themselves had absorbed despair for years. Dust motes swirled in the fractured shafts of moonlight, painting a ghostly scene. "Stay close," Sarah whispered, dragging the girl inside, the door slamming shut behind them with a finality that vibrated in her bones. The air felt heavier inside. Reality clawed at the edges of her sanity. They were trapped. Before them, the room was shrouded in shadows, cluttered with furniture that seemed to breathe, rotten and weary. The floorboards groaned under their feet, the wooden beams stretching with the weight of a past she could almost hear. A light flickered to her right, illuminating rickety shelves stacked with dusty jars and strange tools that looked as though they belonged to another era. "What if it comes in here?" the girl whimpered, her small voice shaking with fear. "It won't. We're safe for now," Sarah lied, a chill crawling up her spine as she glanced back at the door. Her instincts screamed that safety was an illusion. She could feel the creature outside, lurking, watching them just beyond the threshold. Shadows shifted outside the glass pane like restless phantoms. "Look," the girl squeaked, pointing to a series of photographs pinned to the wall. Sarah stepped closer, her heart plummeting as she examined them. The images were sepia-toned, faces smiling in what seemed to be a family portrait. But something was off. Too many faces. Some were blurred, twisting into grotesque smiles that made her skin crawl. This place was once lively, she murmured. But then her gaze lingered on a stark black and white image tucked in the corner. It showed a dilapidated shack eerily similar to their current prison. In the background, she could see a figure looming, its face hidden but with eyes that seemed to glow with a predatory hunger. Sudden scuffling disrupted her thoughts. It came from the back of the shack, a low growl that rumbled like thunder. Both of them jumped, eyes wide. She felt the girl press tight against her, breaths quickening as they shuffled closer together. A crashing sound reverberated through the walls, followed by a series of thumps, as if something massive were trying to break through the back door. "We have to check it out," Sarah said, forcing her voice to steady even as her heart raced. "Are you crazy? Let us just leave," the girl cried, pleading with wide, terrified eyes. But no, there was nowhere to run. The creature lurked outside, and if it sensed they were here, no. They needed to understand what they were up against. "Come on," she urged softly, leading the girl deeper into the dimness of the shack, heart hammering in her chest as they ventured towards the source of the noise. As they approached the back, they peered through a grimy window, the glass cracked and clouded. Outside, the woods were alive with movement. Shapes darted in and out of shadows, and the laughter had turned frantic, a cacophony of madness mingling with the rustle of leaves. "Sarah, please," the girl whimpered, and in that moment, Sarah faltered. The flickering light fell across her face, revealing the sheer terror in her eyes. I know," she said, her heart shattering at the thought of losing the little one. But then they caught sight of something horrific in the darkness, a figure so twisted and wrong that it felt like a nightmare come alive, creeping closer, drawn to their presence. The creature's glowing eyes fixed upon them with an unholy hunger, and suddenly Sarah understood. They were not safe here. Not now, not ever. With a burst of adrenaline, she turned to the girl, whispering, "We have to find a way out now." Backing away from the window, they stumbled towards the front. But even the air thickened with dread as the laughter intensified, a maddening chorus that echoed their very fears. There was no hiding anymore. They had to face it. And what if it was far worse than what they could possibly imagine? What's next? Sarah thought, breathless terror settling in. The question hung in the air, suffocating. Each corner of the shack felt like it was closing in, and their escape dwindled with every sound, every laugh, every haunting whisper. What horrors lay in wait just beyond the door? In the silence that followed, dread mounted, and all they could do was listen for the creature's next move. The crackling laughter seemed to seep through the walls, wrapping around them like a cold, clammy embrace. Every echo felt like a claw digging into Sarah's skin, urging her to cower, to surrender. But there was no time for weakness. "Over here," she hissed, motioning the girl toward a haphazard stack of old furniture. Maybe they could create a barricade. As they fumbled to move a heavy, moth-eaten chair, the growl outside morphed into a spine-chilling roar that rattled the very foundation beneath their feet. They paused, breath caught in their throats, fear pooling in their chests. "I can't do this," the girl cried, tears glistening in her wide eyes. Her small hands trembled visibly, and for a moment, Sarah faltered. She couldn't let fear take control of them, not now. "Listen, you have to trust me," Sarah whispered, urgency thick in her voice. "We can't let it in. Just help me with the chair." Grim determination washed over the girl's face, and together, they shoved the chair against the door, their hearts racing in unison. But as they stepped back, the floorboards creaked ominously again, seemingly in response to their desperate efforts. There was a sense of dread building, a gnawing anxiety that something was coming for them. Suddenly, a heavy thump echoed from the rear of the shack, like a monstrous fist pounding against the walls. Sarah felt her legs go weak as the sound sent a fresh wave of terror coursing through her. "What was that?" she breathed, stepping back from the door, eyes darting around frantically. "I don't want to die," the girl sobbed, her body shaking uncontrollably. "No one's dying tonight," Sarah replied, though the tremor in her own voice betrayed her words. In that moment, the unity of their fear solidified. They were in this together, and together they would find a way out. With a glance around the room, Sarah's eyes settled on a tiny, ragged door at the far side. It barely looked wide enough for them to squeeze through, but it was better than standing still while darkness surrounded them. Over there. She pointed, her finger trembling slightly. We can try that door. What if it leads to something worse? The girl asked, fear lacing her question. Or it could lead to freedom, Sarah countered, drawing strength from a flicker of hope. Heart pounding, she took a step towards it, pulling the girl along. Each step felt like wading through thick mud, fate dragging them down into despair as they approached. The growling grew louder, more feral, a desperate soundtrack to their terrified determination. The little door was old, splintered and swollen, challenging their resolve. With bated breath, Sarah wrapped her fingers around the cold, rusted handle and yanked it open. Inside, darkness swallowed them whole, an oppressive void that swallowed sound. She stepped across the threshold, dragging the girl in behind her. The air was stale, filled with a sense of abandonment that tinged the atmosphere with dread. A single, dim bulb flickered overhead, barely illuminating the cramped space. It was a small storeroom, cluttered with scattered boxes and dirty rags. This place is wrong, the girl murmured, her voice trembling. Stay close, Sarah whispered, scanning the area for any sign of an exit. But fear twisted in her gut as she noticed something gleaming faintly in the corner, a small, rusted knife lying atop a pile of debris. She picked it up, the handle cold in her palm. It felt heavy, like a grim reminder of the danger lurking outside. Maybe we can use this, she said quietly, holding it up for the girl to see. But the moment their eyes met, she knew it was just a temporary shield. It wouldn't stop whatever was coming for them. A loud crash echoed, shaking the building. The sound sent adrenaline rushing through Sarah's veins. We have to hurry. We need to find another way out. As they searched the room, Sarah felt the very walls close in on them, a suffocating reminder of how trapped they really were. Shadows danced around the edges of her vision, whispering horrors that pulsed just beyond her reach. Suddenly the light flickered and went out, plunging them into darkness. Sarah, the girl squealed, panic rising in her chest. Hold my hand, Sarah shouted, feeling her heart race. They gripped each other tightly, horror clawing at them from the unseen corners of their world. That laughter, the girl whimpered, as whispers of the creature seeped around them. Sarah urged, tears brimming in her eyes as dread gripped her heart. They were not safe. Not here. Not ever. A thump came from the storeroom door, the start of something sinister. Find a way out, Sarah urged, a primal instinct for survival igniting within her. But with every crack and crash, the shadows felt more and more alive. How long until that laughter echoed through the room again, where they would truly know horror? What awaited them on the other side? In the suffocating darkness, Sarah could feel the weight of panic crushing her chest. We need light, she gasped, her fingers trembling as they searched blindly for anything that could help. The chill in the air intensified, clinging to her skin like ice. It felt as if the darkness itself was alive, watching. The girl pressed against Sarah, her small body quaking. What if we can't get out? She whispered, the tremor in her voice slicing through the thick atmosphere like a knife. Don't think like that, Sarah urged, refusing to entertain the thought. She gripped the knife tightly, its presence a pitiful comfort. We will find a way. Just stay close. A soft rustle echoed from somewhere behind them, a sound too deliberate to be random. Sarah's heart raced. She turned, moving forward a step, straining to listen. Did you hear that? She mouthed. The girl nodded, her eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, a heavy breath filled the air. A hot, rancid gust that brushed against Sarah's face like a warning. She stifled a scream, instinctively pulling the girl closer. We have to move, she whispered fiercely, her heart pounding against her ribs like a drum. She led the way through the cramped space, fingers dancing across the cool, uneven walls for guidance. Boxes toppled over as they stumbled through, sending a cloud of dust into the air. It clung to their throats, choking them with its stale, aged scent. The muffled laughter echoed in the distance, undulating with a grotesque rhythm that made Sarah's skin crawl. "What if it finds us?" the girl asked, her voice shaking as they slipped through the narrow aisles of clutter. "It won't if we keep moving," Sarah replied, determination burning like a flame in her gut. She fought to keep her voice steady, afraid that even a flicker of doubt would shatter the thin veneer of hope shielding them from despair. Then came another thump, this one heavier, more insistent. It resonated through the wall adjacent to them, rattling the very bones in their bodies. Sarah froze, eyes darting toward the door they had come through. "What if it's already in here?" the girl whimpered, glancing nervously at the shadows shifting around them. "No," Sarah shouted, a fierce instinct surging within her. "Not yet. Let us find." Another crash erupted, and this time the door splintered visibly, sending shards flying. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest as her mind raced through possibilities. "This way," she urged, pulling the girl into a narrow passage leading deeper into the storeroom. They stumbled forward, and Sarah's fingers brushed against something cool and metallic. A snarling roar erupted from behind them, a sound so primal it felt like ice slicing through her veins. The walls felt close, too close, a syndrome of claustrophobia mingling with terror. Just ahead, a flicker of light danced in the distance. Sarah lunged toward it, hope igniting a spark within her. The glow beckoned to them like salvation, illuminating the path ever so slightly. But as they reached the light, a figure materialized, tall, shadowy, with glowing eyes that pierced through the gloom. It stood motionless, lurking just beyond the fragile boundary of illumination, blocking their escape. "Run!" Sarah shouted, yanking the girl's arm, propelling them forward. The laughter roared, maniacal and cruel, the creature lunging after them, hungry for its prey. The passage split, one way leading to the dark, the other to the flickering light. "Which way?" the girl cried, her voice rising in terror as the laughter echoed ominously behind them, drawing closer. "Follow me," Sarah screamed, choosing the path lit by hope, heart racing as the shadows clawed at their heels. What awaited them down that path? Were they fleeing to salvation or deeper into the horror waiting to claim them? The light flickered erratically as they hurtled down the narrow passage, Sarah's grip firm around the girl's hand. Each step echoed like thunder in her ears, a reminder that time was running out. Behind them, the creature's laughter twisted through the space, a sound so malicious that it chilled Sarah's very bones. How long could they keep this up? Panic surged through her, but the desperate hope ahead pulled them onward. Suddenly, the passage opened into a dimly lit room, towering shelves lined with unfamiliar shadows and the scent of damp earth. The floor was strewn with debris, remnants of a life long abandoned. Sarah felt the rush of fear clawing at her heart. Was there truly any safety here? The girl squeezed Sarah's hand, eyes wide with terror. "What if it finds us?" Her small voice trembled, and for a moment, Sarah's resolve wavered. She had to be strong not just for herself, but for the little girl relying on her. Her mind raced with possibilities. "I don't know," she whispered, forcing herself to focus. "But we have to do something." Eyes darting around, searching for a way out, she spotted a heavy wooden door at the far end of the room. "Over there," she urged, pulling the girl toward it as they raced across the uneven floor. A horrifying thud sounded behind them, something colossal, furious, and eager to strike. Time blurred, urgency slipping through her fingers. "Keep running," Sarah urged, her voice a lifeline amid the chaos. They reached the door, and Sarah twisted the rusty handle as if it were the last thread of hope that it creaked open, and they stumbled into another darkened corridor. The air was thick and suffocating. Tendrils of fear wrapped around her heart like a vice, but she couldn't look back. She had to keep moving forward or risk losing the last glimmer of hope. A faint glow shimmered in the distance, beckoning them like a siren's call. "Do you see that?" Sarah pointed, determination fueling her voice. That light might be a way out. But then, the growls echoed again, this time louder, hungrier, reverberating through the walls. The laughter returned, a chilling melody that made her skin crawl. They were not safe here, not yet. Faster, she urged, squeezing the girl's hand tighter as they dashed toward the light. Each step felt like a chase against the very shadows encroaching upon them, eager to consume as they drew closer. Sarah realized the light came from an open window. "That's our chance," she said, sheer adrenaline fueling her movements. But the moment hope surged within her, a heavy thud announced the creature's presence in the corridor behind them. "No, go," she urged, pushing the girl ahead. The creature's form brushed against the edges of the light, a monstrous figure, distorted, eyes glinting with malevolent intent. It lunged toward them, shrieks of rage echoing in its wake. Sarah glanced back only for a split second, capturing the horror of the creature as it barreled into the room, darkness spilling behind like a tide. Fear shot through her veins, but she couldn't waver. "Jump!" With her heart in her throat, Sarah leaped toward the window, arms outstretched, and then suddenly freedom. They fell through the open space, colliding on the grass outside, the cool earth a stark contrast to the suffocating horror they escaped. Gasping for breath, she scrambled to her feet, pulling the girl up next to her. They stumbled away from the shack, shadows lurking ominously behind them. But then, with a booming roar, the creature emerged from the window, angry and twisted, its form outlined against the light spilling from the shack. "Run!" Sarah shouted, adrenaline pushing her forward as they dashed through the tangled underbrush, tearing through the wilderness. Behind them, the malevolent laughter echoed, mingled with the creature's growls, turning into a cacophony of dark rage. Every ounce of courage bolstered with fear drove them onward through the dense woods, the path blurring before them. "Where do we go?" the girl cried out, her small feet stumbling in the dark. "Anywhere but here," Sarah gasped, her eyes darting toward the night sky. "Look for a road, car, anything." And just when hope felt like it was slipping away again, the distant sound of an engine hummed through the night air. Sarah's heart surged. "There." She pointed through the thicket, spotting headlights flickering between the trees. With raw strength, they pushed through the underbrush, tearing towards the light. The engine grew louder, the sound a lifeline pulling them from the grasp of darkness, just within reach. Yet, as they broke free into the clearing, Sarah felt the weight of unease clutch at her heart. The headlights blared brightly, illuminating the road where a truck waited, its silhouette imposing against the night. "Get inside," Sarah urged the girl. Quickly, they dashed toward the vehicle, uncertainty mixing with a flicker of hope as they neared. The driver's door swung open. It was Mr. Coates, his familiar shadow standing tall against the light, the warmth of his grin creeping Sarah out. "Were you lost?" he called as they arrived, a knowing glimmer in his eyes. "I was just waiting for you." The moment stretched painfully, the sense of danger creeping closer as the creature's footsteps thundered behind them. "No," Sarah shouted. "It's not safe." But he stepped forward, voice soothing. "It's okay, dear. Just get in. I promise I've got you." A flicker of doubt raced through her mind, the stories swirling back. Was he part of this shadow, too? Before she could think further, the girl grabbed her hand, trusting with a naive fearlessness that sent daggers of guilt through Sarah. "Go," the girl pleaded, desperation sparkling in her gaze. With every instinct warning her to flee, Sarah made the choice. "Okay," she yelled, tugging the girl toward the door. But just as they reached for the door handle, darkness exploded behind them, a cacophonous roar exploding. "Get in," Mr. Coates pressed, his sinister smile twisting in the shadows. But Sarah hesitated. Taking a step back, she turned to face the creature, now towering behind them, rage and hunger swirling in its glowing gaze. She steeled herself, clutching the knife tight as the entity lunged. "Run," she screamed, shoving the girl towards the door. "Don't look back." They darted into the truck in one swift motion as darkness enveloped them, fear pushing them. The engine roared to life. "Go," Sarah yelled at the driver. "Now." The tires screeched as they sped off down the road, the wild laughter and echoing growls of the creature fading further into the night. But even as they fled, Sarah couldn't shake the dread that clung to her heart. They escaped, for now, but she wasn't naive enough to think this was over. The creature had a hunger, a darkness that would follow, and with it the memories of every soul it had claimed as they drove away. Hearts racing, Sarah stole a glance at the girl beside her. "We'll get through this," she whispered, fierce determination coloring her voice. On her face, the child bore the innocent touch of belief that ignited a fragile hope, with the road stretching out before them. Sarah clenched the blade tighter, vowing silently. The darkness was out there, but she would not face it alone. They would fight together, come what may. They might be haunted, but they were alive. And alive meant there was always a chance to confront the shadows lurking in the corners of their world. As dawn broke on the horizon, casting golden hues across the sky, Sarah felt the weight of fear lift just a fraction. For today, they had outrun the nightmare, and tomorrow would be a new day. But even with the light breaking above them, Sarah couldn't shake the sinking feeling the shadows always return. Something dark was waiting, and they would need to be ready. If you found this conclusion thrilling, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss any future exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let the world know what you thought of this heart-stopping finale. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what happens next. I'm dying to hear from you. And please instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for the channel. Don't wait even one more second to share.